It was Harry Holt, the founder of Holt Adoption Agency and a self-made multimillionaire American from Oregon who really wanted to help biracial Korean orphans from the Korean War. He spent his hard-earned money to build orphanage facilities in Korea and made significant legal changes in America and Korea so these biracial children could be adopted overseas where they could grow up in a family, his ultimate dream. Well, his dream came true for more than 200,000 Koreans who ended up overseas into new families. 56 years later, I stand here today as an American who was once a Korean orphan in Busan, a real byproduct of his hard work and generosity. On March 5, 1971, someone found me in a parked car near the garden of the Gukjae Hotel at 1394 Jung-il-dong in Busan in the Haeundae area. The police officers estimated my age was approximately a month old as no actual birth date was provided. Next, I was transferred to the chief at the Dongdae police station and then brought to the reception center around midnight the same day. Days later, I was sent to Dongseong-won Orphanage where I lived there for 3 years before I was sent to America on November 24, 1974 to the only family I've ever known. Like the 200,000 adoptees adopted abroad, our lives required us to erase our Korean heritage and forget anything about Korea. We had to assimilate as quickly as possible. Our Korean names were replaced with Western names like Smith, Riley, and Johnson that didn't match our Asian faces. Our motherland native language was quickly replaced with English and forever forgotten. Our parents, siblings, friends, and our community we grew up in were white. Many adoptees hadn't been exposed to Asians until they were adults, once they'd moved into metropolitan cities. Unlike you as native Koreans, we have never experienced a strong connection with our biological families or Korean roots. Our lack of understanding our personal history in Korea still remains with us. There's always been a disconnect between our identities and our race, how others perceived us and how we perceived ourselves. Thus, we always knew we were different. We looked and felt different from our family, friends, and our community around us. When we look in the mirror, it's a reflection of a stranger because there are pieces of us we can't identify with. Thus, many adoptees are seeking missing pieces of our identity that includes information about our birth families and our history in Korea prior to being adopted. Like most of the 200,000 adoptees sent overseas, searching for birth family is nearly impossible. No one from the Korean government adoption agencies, police agencies, or adoptee-run organizations can help and assist with my search or most of the other adoptees' searches because we don't have birth family information. According to the Korean government, only 2.5% or 2,250 adoptees out of 90,000 birth family search requests resulted in finding their birth family, while 97.5% or 87,750 adoptees will never be able to search for their birth families. Plus, thousands more don't attempt to search knowing it's too difficult to search. Korea Reconnect is providing a searching tool to help all adoptees and birth parents. Many have been turned away from adoption agencies and have had no other searching options until now. Korea Reconnect is asking for birth parents and adoptees to enter whatever unique clues they have about the two specific events, the birth story and the relinquishment story. Dates, years, location, or city of when and where these events took place are crucial. Some adoptees were even found with their Korean names and birth dates pinned on them. Since these clues have often been recorded in the adoptee's adoption or orphanage files, Korea Reconnect is hoping to use these same clues to search for one another. More importantly, a birth mother from Korea or an adoptee anywhere in the world in upstate New York or in Belgium can participate in this service from the privacy of their own home. Korean birth parents don't have to reveal their past but can still search anonymously. A curious birth mother has unlimited access to this searching tool where she or someone who can help her search based on the birth and relinquishment story of her relinquished child. She can review any potential profile matches as often as she wants without telling anyone about her past. DNA testing will be the final step to confirm any biological matches. David Kim, a native Korean who helped Harry Holt launch Holt Adoption Agency back in the 1950s, worked for Holt both in Korea and Oregon for more than 50 years. Eventually becoming the president and a board member for Holt, he wrote a book called Who Will Answer, as he was trying to find homes for the thousands of orphans in Korea. 56 years later, I asked the same question: who will answer? Who will answer the Korean birth parents' questions they continue to ask themselves? What happened to my birth child? Did I make the right decision? Is my birth child safe and happy? Do these birth parents have a right to these answers before they pass away? Who will answer the hundreds of thousands of adoptees' questions that never go away? Why was I given up? Do I have any biological brothers or sisters? What were the circumstances to my birth and relinquishment? What medical history exists in my biological family? Do adoptees have a right to these answers, as many of them are starting their own families? Regardless of the outcome of the adoption, these are natural, adoption-related questions that never go away no matter how many years have passed. Your contribution will, 1, provide birth parents and adoptees a sense of hope that they could possibly learn about each other while protecting both parties' identity. 2, link adoptees with others based on their shared history, connecting adoptees who spent time in the same orphanage, who were cared for by the same foster mother, or link those who were on the same flight to their adoptive country. 3, build stronger connections to Korea for adoptees by teaching them more about the history of the orphanages they spent time in and people who cared for them. While this kind of project is important for the adoption community, financially strained organizations like adoption agencies and Korean government organizations aren't able to support it, as this kind of project isn't a top priority for them. Speaking on behalf of the adoption community, this is exactly what we as adoptees and birth parents need and hope for to help heal the emotional pain and sense of loss. A sense of hope that discovering our birth families and Korean roots is a possibility would be a dream come true for thousands. 56 years ago, Harry Holt, an American, came to Korea and spent his hard-earned money during his retirement years advocating for these Korean orphans. Now you have an opportunity to continue his legacy by helping these same Korean orphans heal their emotional pain and sense of loss from the disconnect of their birth family and birth country. Unlike you, adoptees are not connected to their Korean roots that reflect their racial identity. Many have gotten older with families of their own. Many will never return to Korea despite their interest in discovering more of their personal past and birth families. You can help heal their wounds. Your contribution will truly impact hundreds of thousands of adoptees all over the world, giving each of them a chance to understand their racial identity and personal history will fill in those missing pieces they've been living with for all these years. Thank you. 감사합니다.